Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Before we start today's video, two things. Number one, thank you very much for all your comments and your suggestions. You guys been great. So far, I have tons of comments coming through and different suggestions. Some of them are very accurate, some of them are a little bit less, but nevertheless I appreciate them all, guys. Thank you very much. It's great to have army of more experienced people than myself on the other side of that camera, watching the progress of this little rebuild or fixing process maybe. And it's good to know I'm not alone in this mess of internal combustions and electrical wires, spark plugs and all that shit. So guys, thank you very much. Your help here and your comments are very much appreciated. Number two, and perhaps the most important part of the video today, this is not a how-to video by any means, any shape, any form. I'm not skilled or qualified mechanic by any means, far from that. Everything I do here I learn myself and I do for my own pleasure and your guys' entertainment. In fact, there are a number of things I've not done before, and here on the camera I'm learning it. I'm learning with some of you guys, some of you giving me suggestions and helpful tips, not only in comments but through a different messenger, through text, through emails. So guys, thank you very much. But once again, if you choose to follow here what I do, choose it wisely, because I don't know what I'm doing, and half the time I'm doing it for the first time. I got manuals, I got pictures printed off, and I'm doing my best to do a good job out of it, but it's not to be followed. It's not a how-to video. I'm learning it myself. In fact, many times I've not done this before, so this is the very first time I'm doing it. Happens to be the camera over here, as I said, purely for entertainment and nothing else. Alright, so just a quick recap. The bike is still not running. Didn't do much troubleshooting over the week because I've been busy at work and not enough time to play in a garage. The videos don't pay the bills, the work does, so it's a simple choice. Anyway, boring. We've got, as many of you suggested, I've ordered a compressor tester kit. It's a brand new kit. It was about 20 quid. Why is it brand new? Well, I never had one, never had need to own one, but it's a good tool to have. Never used one before, but it comes with a simple instructions printed on both sides of A4 paper, so I don't think it's a rocket science to work it out. I'm gonna quickly read through this and let's get testing. However, before I perform the compression test, which needs to be run on the warmed up engine, let's perform a valve clearance check, because that needs to be done on the cold engine, cold valve. So let's do it now. Right, at this point the spark plug is out of the engine, so I can turn it over by hand easier. And manual says to do it counterclockwise. And we're looking for that T mark down there, which indicates the top dead center. We will mark beforehand, which is, I believe, for the advanced timing, advanced firing, and the T mark right there. You can probably see it, and it's bang on in the middle when it's indicating the, oh, where are we? I lost you guys. There you go. The T mark matches the arrow on the engine casing, and depending which angle you're looking at, but if I'm looking at it dead straight, it's bang on in the middle. So that indicates the cylinder is top dead center, and this is where we should measure the valve clearance. Let's have a look. I may not have been busy in the garage, but when I'm not working I'm reading, and I've done my research on how to do it and what to look for, and I got manual pages that are important printed out. The good thing about this little bike, it's got the old school valves adjusters that is screw-on type, so you don't need any shims for it. You can just loosen up the 10mm bolt and use like a needle nose pliers or something just to turn the screw to change the valve adjustments on this particular engine. There are specific tool you can get for it, but I don't have one and it's probably not necessary. Let's show you how it looks from the other end. There we go, that's the intake valves over here. What I also found from my research, some of the guys on the forum, on the TU forum, advised me that the TU 250 1998 version model, the engine is slightly different than later models, and the main difference is it's got two valves on the intake and two valves on the exhaust side. Engine is virtually the same as on the Suzuki GN 250, which started its life well many years ago, well before this little bike took over. So engine is physically the same. So the manual specifications for the engine and all the parts are backwards compatible for this bad boy. And according to little manual I've printed over here, the intake valve clearance I'm looking at are between 0.03 and 0.08 of a mil. So let's have a look whether that is the case. Right, so we got 0.03 to 0.08, so I think if I start with 0.05, that's more or less bang on in the middle. It's a little bit tricky to get it in. Okay, so looking at it, 0.10 of a mil also fits, although that is a top. It will not, it doesn't go easy, it rubs quite a bit, but because of that I think I'm going to tighten it down just ever so gently, just to keep it below that top clearance of it. So let's do it now, because they're both identical, they're both exactly the same. So let's just put it down to spec. Okay, so the way I'm going to attack it, I've got an 8mm spanner. I said in the beginning of the video that's a 10mm, but it's not, it's actually 8mm. Loosen up that little nut, I hold it in place. Easier said than done, hey? Oh, tight. One is loosened, tightened up a little bit with some pliers. And I'm talking by a quarter of a turn each time. Just like that, and make sure that doesn't move when you tighten it back up. Let's have a look now if I can fit that 0.10 in there. If I cannot, then we're gonna scale it down and see what we get up to. Okay, so we are 45 minutes later. Yes, because it took it's a fiddly little job, that is, but I've got it sorted and I'm happy with the current setting. I've got it set so the 0.8, which is the top top value, it barely fits in. You need to push it in, but the 0.06 sorry, fits just fine. So were they out of spec? Well, ever so slightly. 0.10 was still fitting in a slide tight option, but it was. So I've corrected that, and that's on the intake valve setting, clearance setting. They weren't massively out of spec. Would that make a big difference? Such a big difference so the engine doesn't run past 5% of a throttle? I seriously doubt, but yeah, well, this is corrected, so I know that's the intake valve are okay now. I'm going to move into the exhaust ones and we'll see what specs we've got over there. And now that we move into the exhaust side of valves, I've got the specs here, and they should be slightly larger because they start at 0.8 of a mil, and the top clearance should be 0.13. So it is ever so slightly larger than the intake one, but I guess that's normal. We'll see what kind of surprise we've got over here waiting for us. Right, we still got cylinder in a top dead center, that hasn't changed. And we're looking for anything between 0.08 to 0.013. So let's start with the bottom. Let's do the 0.8, see if that fits okay. Where are we? Right. Okay, so I've done it off camera because, guys, trust me, I had to put myself in a some kind of yoga positions here to get in there. But the bottom line is 0.10 of a mil fits absolutely fine with both left hand side exhaust valves. The spec is 0.08 to 0.13. 0.13 you can get in them, but it's really forcing that in, and it's 0.15 doesn't go in. 0.14 is not going in. 0.13 it is a maximum that it goes in, but 0.10 goes beautifully into both ones, and I'm trying to fit them in there as parallel as I can, so they go in nice and straight, and 0.10 seems to be doing the trick. So again, this side is well within the spec of what the manual says for that engine. Try to do this again, guys, so you can see. Again, a bit of a pointer's exercise, but 0.10 is absolutely fine, and 0.8 up as well. So this side don't even need adjusting. Now with the valves correctly adjusted, well, I'll be very surprised if the engine behaves any differently, because they didn't need that much adjusting anyway, but at least we know that now. I'm going to put the spark plug back in and warm the engine up to the operating temperature so we can perform the compression test. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to loosely dash together. Yes, you know, a bit of a choke, and let's So it runs fine without a choke, but there's no difference to performance. This is what it does when you try to open the throttle, but there's no choke on it whatsoever, so it starts fine and runs okay. But there's no difference to performance, and I know for a fact now the valves are adjusted correctly. There's no white or black smoke, nothing really unusual here, and it's pumping 9 amount of air from the exhaust. Okay, that will do. Once again, spark plug directly from the engine after it's been running, not on choke. It's been running for a couple of minutes. Not on choke, it's been running as normal, ticking over. And I tried to rev it up a couple of times and you heard the outcome, but that's what the spark plug looks like. So not complete combustion or well, too much petrol, not never. Okay, so my little compression testing kit, not the rocket science, not NASA engineering. I need to find the right thread for the for my engine, for the match it up basically with the spark plug, which seems to be this one. Put it up on the end of the adapter, screw it in, put my gauge on, and test the compression. Simple as that. Right, so I fit it in, screw it in by hand. Quick release adapter. There you go, seems to be in. Can you guys see this? Yes, you can. And yeah, simple as that. All I need to do apparently, obviously put the ignition on, keep the throttle wide open. Can't do it by the actual throttle because it's here, but I can do it here. So it gets the maximum amount of air, and crank the engine up until the needle stops going up. I will need two hands for it, so I will just place it here and watch what's going on. I'll let you know the outcome. Let's see. Okay, it stopped at 145, I think. Can you see this? Yeah, you can. 145, I believe. And it stays at 145. Okay, so the trig I'm referring to even says here, put a teaspoon of oil into each cylinder. If the reading is increased, the problem might be poorly seated or worn piston rings. Well, we're gonna test whether that's right. I don't have a teaspoon, but I have a syringe, and I'm gonna put about 3 or 4 mil and whatever's in the tube over here. That should give me a good indication whether there's any problem with the piston rings over there or not. Let's have a look. Okay, now I've got some engine oil on top of that cylinder. Let's try this again. Hand tied only. And again, I need two hands for it, guys. I will show you what's happening. Right, let's try this again. Right, so that's interesting. It went up to 170. Don't know if you can see this. It's 145, now it's 170 with a bit of oil on top of that cylinder. So according to the manual, that would indicate poor piston rings. They worn or they're not fitted properly. So basically that means most likely top end rebuild. Am I right thinking that, or is that just normal? Because is that significant amount? Yeah, we're talking like 25-30 psi more on this. Let me know what you think. Once again, the spark plug is out, and I've got my top dead center mark right there. You can most likely see it, guys. There you go. The camera angle puts it off, but it is pretty much bang on with that arrow. So we're good here. And on the other side of the bike, pull the little inspection cover off. And here we go. These are also matching. You got them two little marks horizontally on each side of the engine cover, and they should be mating with parallel to the when the top end of the head cover is joining the bottom part of the cover as well, and they are mating perfectly well. I can see somebody's been there. I'm 100% sure somebody's been in this engine before me. There are a number of evidence that it's showing me that case, but yeah, this is correct. That timing is as it should be, and because it's controlled by the not points but this little guy over here, this is either working or it doesn't, and because it's idling perfectly well, and the problem only starts when under load, then as you guys said, it's either going to be the ignition coil failing under load as well, or I've got a problem with them piston rings, which kind of we proved with the compression test. Before I rip it apart, however, some of you suggested that the cam chain tensioner may be a problem here. Well, I took it off. It's the automatic one, so you can wind on the way back, and when I release it, it kind of goes all the way up. So that don't seems to be a problem to me. That seems to be working as it intended. The cam chain tensioner seems to be okay. Got good spring on it, so it's probably something else. Okay, so we learned something very valuable today. The compression test showing there may be a problem with the piston rings. Would that be causing that issue? Well, most likely. A lot of you suggested that ignition coil can have good reads in outputs on the resistance, but when put under load, it can be failing, which it's a very fair point. Also, the TCI unit or the CDI box, however you want to call it, they either working or they don't. It's idling perfectly well and it's running perfectly well without the choke. It's got no problem starting. This bike starts very, very good. The problem starts when you put some bins to it, when you try to increase the revs, open the throttle a little bit, anything over 5%, then the problem starts. So again, as you say, maybe the ignition coil is getting more load and it's failing. I'll need to get a new one to replace it just to test it. Or the TCI CDI box not timing it correctly, because we know now that timing marks are matching perfectly well. So that can be one of the reasons. Another suggestion was that the timing chain has stretched, and obviously when put under load, it's putting the timing off. I removed the cam chain tensioner, and it's got 3.5 turns before it's fully engaged. At the moment, the tension sits at 2.5 turns, so it's got another 4 turns to go. That kind of tells me that the chain is not stretched to its fully legal, limit. I don't think that'll be putting the timing off for so much that the engine completely bogs down under pressure. There must be something different. Regardless of what the compression should be, because I found very inconsistent results. Some say for this engine should be between 141 to 199 psi. The other source tells me it should be 171 to 199 psi. Regardless of that, I've got two very inconsistent results. First one, when the engine is kind of warm, it was reading 145, I think. And when I put some oil into the top of the piston, it increased quite significantly, another 30 or so psi, to reading 175, I think. And that kind of tells me there may be a problem with the piston rings. because I don't think that should, if the piston ring was sealing that, you know, gap in the piston and the bore quite nicely, I don't think that should increase significantly like that, you know, extra 30 or 35 psi, you take it. So I believe that's where our problem is. But then question to you clever guys out there, would that be causing that problem? Would that be causing that symptoms of, you know, trying to open the throttle and it just does what it do, not being very happy about it? Piston rings needs replacing. But if that is the case, I need to get stuck in and just rip top of the engine off and then see what I can do with the help of manual and see what I can do it for the first time. Mind you, I've got the DRZ engine needs rebuilding, and that was supposed to be done right after this guy's on the road, but obviously this is not happening anytime soon. So let me know what you think of today's video, of today's findings. Sorry if it's a longer one, but you know, it's been a good week of research and a whole Sunday spent in the garage messing about with this bad boy, but it's pissing down with rain out there, so it's I can think of worse places to be right now than rather here. Anyway guys, as always, thanks very much for watching. Thank you very much for your continued support and for our amazing comments, and I expect a lot more comments, you know, and suggestions what's happening over here, and how to fix it. Let's do it together. Let's put this guy back on the road when it belongs. That's about it. Rock hard, have a beer. I'm about to have one right now, and stay safe guys. I hope you keep you well, and I'll see you very soon.